The Vanishing Carnival. The small town of Brookhollow had always been quiet, almost frozen in time. Nestled between rolling hills and dense pine forests, it was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and the most exciting event of the year was the county fair. But in early autumn, just as the leaves began to turn red and gold, a strange poster appeared on the bulletin board in the center of town. It was printed on faded parchment, its edges frayed like it had been pulled from another time. In swirling, old-fashioned letters, it read, "Come one, come all, to Dr. Lazarus's Carnival of Wonders. One night only. Games, magic, and marvels beyond belief." There was no mention of where the carnival came from, or where it was going next. Just a time and a place, Brookhollow Meadows, Saturday night. At first, people thought it was a prank. But as Saturday approached, massive striped tents began to rise in the meadow on the outskirts of town. Trucks nobody had seen arrive were suddenly parked along the dirt roads. By Friday night, strings of glowing lights illuminated the dark fields, and haunting calliope music drifted through the air. For the first time in decades, Brookhollow buzzed with excitement. The disappearance. Among the eager townsfolk was Alice Carter, a 19-year-old waitress who lived with her younger brother Ethan. Their parents had died when Alice was 16, leaving her to care for Ethan alone. He had been begging to go to the carnival since the posters first appeared. "Please, Alice," he pleaded, tugging on her sleeve. "Just this once. I've never even been to a real carnival before." Alice sighed. She didn't like crowds, and something about the sudden appearance of this carnival felt wrong. But Ethan's face lit up with so much hope that she couldn't say no. "Fine," she said reluctantly. "But we don't stay late." The night of the carnival, the meadow was unrecognizable. Tents towered into the sky, painted in deep reds and golds. Strange performers roamed the grounds, contortionists bending their bodies at impossible angles, clowns with painted smiles that never wavered, and fortune-tellers whose eyes seemed to gleam unnaturally. Ethan ran ahead, laughing, while Alice struggled to keep up. She noticed something odd: no one she recognized from town was leaving. Everyone who entered seemed to stay, as if drawn deeper into the maze of tents. "Don't wander too far," Alice called. Ethan waved and pointed excitedly toward a massive striped tent at the far end of the grounds. Above its entrance was a sign that read, "The Mirror of Wishes." Tears streamed down her face. "They're gone, Ethan. We have to leave. Now." They fled the meadow as the entire carnival imploded with a final, haunting note of calliope music. When they turned back, there was nothing but an empty field. For a brief moment, Alice thought they were safe. But as they reached the road, Ethan stopped. "Why are you crying, Alice?" he asked softly. "We can go back tomorrow, the carnival will still be there." Alice froze. His eyes gleamed faintly red, just like Dr. Lazarus's. Epilogue. The next morning, Brookhollow awoke to find the same faded posters pinned across town, advertising Dr. Lazarus's Carnival of Wonders. No one remembered the night before. No one, except Alice. She sat alone in her room, clutching the newspaper article and whispering to herself. She had saved Ethan's body, but not his soul. And she knew, deep down, that when the carnival returned in another 27 years, it wouldn't just take a few people. It would take the entire town. As the sun set, faint calliope music drifted on the wind once more. Then, 1 year later, on a foggy autumn evening, she heard it, the faint, haunting music of the calliope, carried on the wind. The carnival had returned, not in Brookhollow, but in the neighboring town of Milford. Alice packed her backpack and set out immediately, armed with a camera, a notebook, and the newspaper article. This time, she wouldn't be a helpless victim. She would expose the truth. When she arrived, the sight was eerily familiar. The same tents, the same performers, even the same chilling sign above the Mirror of Wishes. But this time, she noticed something strange: the crowd wasn't reacting like normal people. Their movements were stiff, almost puppet-like. And when Alice tried to speak to them, their eyes seemed empty. She slipped into the mirror of Wish's tent. Inside, the mirrors were even more disturbing than before. One showed Ethan, banging on the glass and screaming silently. Another showed Alice herself, but with a cruel, twisted smile. In the largest mirror, she saw Dr. Lazarus standing behind her. Whirling around, Alice came face to face with him. He was tall and impossibly thin, his pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. His top hat added to his inhuman height, and his eyes glowed faintly red. "Welcome back, dear Alice," he purred. "We've been expecting you." "Where's my brother?" she demanded. Lazarus smiled, revealing too many teeth. "Oh, he's here. They're all here. My carnival gives people exactly what they desire most, for a price." The truth revealed. As Lazarus spoke, the mirrors began to shimmer, revealing horrifying scenes, people trapped inside, reliving their happiest memories over and over, oblivious to the fact that their bodies were gone. Ethan was among them, laughing as he played with their parents, a perfect illusion. Alice realized the truth. The carnival was a living entity, sustained by human souls. It lured victims with promises of wonder and joy, then imprisoned them in illusions while their energy fed the being that manifested as Dr. Lazarus. "You're lying," Alice whispered. "I can free him." "Perhaps," Lazarus said, tilting his head. "But freedom comes at a cost. Would you take his place?" Before she could answer, the mirrors cracked, releasing a deafening wail. The entire tent shook violently. Alice clutched her brother's image, screaming his name. The glass shattered completely, and a blinding light engulfed her. The final choice. When Alice opened her eyes, she was standing outside the tent. The carnival was collapsing around her, tents folding inward like dying flowers. In the distance, she saw Ethan running toward her, his face filled with confusion. "Alice. What happened? Where are Mom and Dad?" "Let's go in there," he shouted. Alice hesitated. The tent radiated an icy chill, even from a distance. But before she could protest, Ethan ducked inside. When Alice followed just seconds later, the tent was empty. "Ethan?" she called, panic rising in her chest. Her voice echoed strangely, as though the tent stretched endlessly. Mirrors lined the walls, each reflecting distorted versions of herself. In one, she was a child again. In another, she was old and frail. But nowhere did she see Ethan. She ran back outside, but the carnival was chaos. The music grew louder, more frantic. Performers moved faster, their painted smiles now grotesque. Alice screamed Ethan's name, but no one answered. By midnight, the lights suddenly went out. When they flickered back on, the meadow was empty. The tents, the performers, the lights, all gone. And so was Ethan. The aftermath. The next morning, Alice ran to the sheriff's office, hysterical. But Sheriff Hayes just frowned, leaning back in his chair. "There hasn't been a carnival here in over 30 years, he said slowly. "You must have been dreaming." "I wasn't dreaming," Alice shouted, slamming her fists on his desk. "My brother is missing." The whole town was there. But when she asked other townsfolk, they looked at her with confusion. No one remembered going to a carnival. No one remembered seeing Ethan that night. Desperate, Alice dug through the local library archives. Hours later, covered in dust, she found an old newspaper from 1954. The headline read, "Mysterious Carnival Appears, Dozens Missing." Her heart pounded as she read the article. It described a traveling carnival identical to the one she'd seen. Witnesses reported that after the event, several townsfolk vanished without a trace. The carnival was never seen again, until it returned 27 years later, in 1981. Each time, the same pattern: celebration, then disappearance, then complete denial by the survivors. At the bottom of the article was a single black and white photograph of the ringmaster, Dr. Lazarus. His face was shadowed beneath a tall hat, but his eyes seemed to glimmer, even in the faded image. Alice realized with growing horror that the carnival wasn't just entertainment. It was a predator, feeding on human souls and erasing memories to cover its tracks. The return. Alice swore she would never stop searching for Ethan. For months, she tracked strange disappearances across the state. Each incident was dismissed as runaways or accidents, but Alice knew better. Every clue pointed to the same pattern.